things, just talking about little meetups. One of the guys at Sparkbox upstairs, who I work with, Ryan Cromwell, used to run this Dayton Clean Coders, and then it was on hiatus for about a year, and it started back up this month. So, have you ever been to a Clean Coders before? Okay, cool. The idea is just like, hey, learn how to be a better coder, and doing some things like code katas and stuff like that, to just learn how to write better code. So those are here. I guess they'll probably be in this room, and it's during lunchtime, so sometimes that's difficult for some people, but that's what it is. And if you go to cleancoders.com, you'll see the schedule. It's also on Meetup too, so we just put it up on Meetup. So if you like using Meetup, you can get to the Meetup site and RSVP there. Let's see, what else are we doing? Girl Develop It, it's doing stuff. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. So it looks like the next meeting is here this weekend.
The Code Coffee is in Proto.
Just right next door.
And then we should have some lightning talks at the end of the month, which I'll be speaking at.
Oh, cool.
And then
Where's the usual meeting location?
we usually meet at Proto for Code Coffee because if anybody knows of anybody who wants to sponsor Girl Develop It,
As venue, you mean?
yeah, we need venues and we need everything because we just started back in August, so.
Yeah.
You talked to the guys at Berry stuff here,
Yeah. We don't have a lot of money.
but their room is
Is their room?
free.
Okay.
We can talk at the end because
Okay.
I contacted them
Thank
for
you.
a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. How many people haven't shown up? Like,
We actually have gotten to the point where we have to limit our code and copies because we're afraid that Proto will start kicking us out. Which sometimes we have, if we like men who come to our things, we don't discriminate. And so if keep a lookout, if you want to print something, we might have discounts during our time as well for 3D printing.
okay.
Because we go there so often.
Cool.
So.
I'm actually a little ashamed to say this, but I've never been over there before.
To Proto?
Yeah. And I work right here.
I've never 3D printed
I keep saying I have to do that. Gem City JS also meets here. Rob Tar, who's actually at Code Bash right now. Just got a picture of him making robots with JavaScript up in Code Bash. He runs this. I don't see anything that's coming up, but I know he's going to start back up in January. And let's see. What else do we have? Other meetups? Anybody?
Dayton.
Yeah, CodePen.
CodePen Dayton.
What does it be?
Say again?
When's the next meeting?
It's first Tuesdays of every month. We didn't have ours yesterday. We're going to have it next week.
Next week.
But
Next
it's first
Tuesday.
Tuesdays of every month, just before the date of the first.
Cool. We've got Grant meetups. Any meetups to announce?
I guess the dynamic languages meetup is good to know about.
Chess Club, right?
Yeah, the chess club and second Wednesday. And
Yeah.
I can't remember what we're doing this month. I'll pull it up.
By the way, the CodePen Dayton, we meet at Reynolds and Reynolds. So,
Okay.
FYI.
Coming up for us, we've got next month, let's see. This is building a highly scalable service-oriented architecture for big data. And then after that, we're going to be looking at APIs. And I think we've got somebody for April 2, but haven't put them in yet. It's going to be on UX, UI, user testing, stuff like that. Let's see, what else? Well, let's give away some stuff. All right, so we're gonna use this again. Sometimes it's a little bit buggy, but usually it works. So if you just point your phone or your computer or both or any and all devices to this URL, you can get a dot up there, and then in a second we'll pick somebody. But so just to talk about, I guess, about sponsorship, so we wouldn't be able to do this. One, Sparkbox, the company that I work for, Shares, owns this space and makes this available for us. One of the main things we use this space for is for our Maker Series. And we did 6 last year. It's an all-day workshop. And we're still planning the ones for this year. But those are great. Buildright.io is where you can find out more about those. But Sparkbox sponsors the venue here and then also the food, which is late, but it will be here, hopefully. And then we have Pluralsight, so they do online courses, all kinds of technology things. There he is, everybody.
I am late because I was waiting for the UPS driver who never showed up. I'm really Did you say why?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, maybe next month.
Yeah, maybe next month. We got a little bit of some stuff that was supposed to be delivered, but didn't come here yet, quite yet. Pluralsight, so they have given us some like 1 month free subscriptions to their service. That's what we're giving away. Do we still have front and master stuff?
We got a renewal.
A renewal?
We got 40 new ones.
40 new ones, okay. Anything else that we're giving away besides Pluralsight?
No, off the top of my head, no.
Hey guys, feel free to find a seat anywhere you can. We'll all kind of break to go grab the sandwiches here in a second. So that's it, Pluralsight front end masters?
Yep.
Yeah. So give everybody another second here if you want to hit that URL. And get some stuff away.
I just looked up the dynamic languages meetup thing, which I'd forgotten the topic. It is, this month, it is the processing language.
The processing language?
Yeah, processing. It says it's designed to lower the bar for creating awesome artwork and data visualizations, also popular for programming Arduino.
It's a language called
A
processing?
language called processing. Good luck Googling that.
Yeah.
But it's at processing.org.
Processing.org. Huh. Yeah, if you guys want to get some free stuff, hit that URL and
So what are you drawing for?
what?
I'm trying to catch up. What are you drawing for?
Oh,
Say anything?
Pluralsight or Front Masters.
So whatever
We
they
have free subscriptions to those two services.
Did you already talk about all the other meetups? Did you already talk about?
We already did.
Did you talk about the special guest that we had in the audience? My sister's.
Yeah.
Did she say? Or did she-
We talked privately.
My sister's in the audience. It's awesome. So, it's very good.
Were you surprised? She said she wasn't sure if you were.
Yeah, I just saw her just now. Like, it's great. So we're chewing into your time. Sorry.
Okay. It's the whole family. Last time you had your
My
son
son
here.
here. Yeah. Trying to bring him up right. So we have a renewal of the front end masters. So if you don't have the front end masters, the old ones are expiring.
Yeah, those are a year from now, right?
Yeah, they actually expire in 2018.
Wow. All right, here we go. Pick. Yes. Anybody? All right, green screen right there.
Fine.
All right, we're gonna do it again though. Nice. We're gonna do it again. Hey, you wanna get the stuff?
Yeah,
You that tub. You got the stuff, the tub right there.
You don't have to. You know what you want? Go for it.
All right.
I gotta see the update.
I think I got your email. Would you write it down?
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's it.
Once you reset it, it should go back.
Is there a reset button? Here we go, reset. Oh, we don't have any. They didn't give us plates?
No.
Could
No
you see
plates.
if there's any in that row? All right, here we go. Pick.
Yeah.
Anybody? All right.
You know what you want? A new car! No. All right. Does anybody want some old busted div shop coupons? Yeah, they're out of business, I guess.
So tonight we are, let's go ahead and grab the food and everybody come back and then start with Michael.
Give everybody a minute to just get settled in.
Is that in the circle, Mike?
What's that? Yeah. Any Sasquatch aficionados here? No? Okay, you guys ready for a treat then? So you'll definitely learn something tonight. All right. So yeah, my name's Michael Bowman. I work at Applied Information Sciences. Here you can see that I'm on Twitter at WebSlingerM. I'm also a big fan of Slack. I love Slack. I'm on it all the time. So usually if I'm logged in my computer, I have the Slack window open. So if you guys are on the Dayton Web Developer Slack channel, Open Dayton, any of those, you can find them on there.
Oh yeah, good call. So we have a Slack channel. We use Slack, and how do we get to the link? How do you get to it?
There is several places. On the Meetup website, in the discussions, there's a pinned at the top of the discussions. That's the first thing there. There's a link to the Slack channel.
Got it. Sorry. You said there was another Slack?
That's right. Open Dayton is the other one, so a lot of code for Dayton people, and I actually run a meetup too, the Dayton Data Visualization meetup, and we're on the Open Dayton Slack channel. We have our own channel on there.
Nice.
So yeah, there's 3 or 4. I think Slack's really catching on and becoming popular. So lots of opportunities there to get in touch. Before we get started though, a word from my sponsors. Applied Information Sciences, we are hiring. We're a defense contractor working on Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and we're looking for full-stack web developers, though mostly just web developers. So we do a whole lot with JavaScript, AngularJS, D3. If you're into mapping or data visualization, we would love to talk to you. There's our website, or you can just email me or ping me on Slack. And we'll get you set up with the right people.
And AIS is our newest sponsor for the meetup.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, here's the data visualization meetup I was talking about. Me and my friend Chris Dickman run this one. We only meet quarterly, and it's a lunchtime meeting in Beaver Creek, so we get a lot of base people. But again, if you're into E3 or JavaScript, we talk about that a lot. So you're definitely welcome to join the meetup and come to one of the events. So tonight, what we'll talk about. So D3 is just a huge library. There's tons of stuff. But what we'll go over tonight are just how to find some good data sets. So especially when you're first starting out and learning, a lot of people have a hard time finding something to map or something to chart. So I'll show you a couple tricks to find some good data there. We'll talk about how to make a map with D3.js. And then talk a little bit about Phantom.js and how you can break out of the browser and use these things to do to do functions other than just showing things on a web browser. And I really try to explain why you would want to do such a thing. So I know some of this stuff is weird if you haven't heard it or you're not into this world before, but I'm really laid back. So if anybody during the presentation has any questions or if something's confusing or you wonder why I'm doing something a certain way, go ahead and just shout out a question. That's okay with me. Ready? Get your binoculars. We're going to do some squatching.
Is that actually a term, or did you make a
No, it's a term, yes.
Sasquatch watching?
Squatching. So it's like watching for Sasquatch. So sightings. Now, believe it or not, Ohio is a squatchy place. There's been a lot of sightings here in Ohio. Washington is probably the most number of Sasquatch sightings, but the tri-state area here, Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio, definitely have a huge number of sightings. I was prepared. I figured I might have a few skeptics in the crowd tonight, so I'll show you a sighting here so we're all on the same page. Well, I do JavaScript mostly. I'm not really good with Keynote. This is a video. You can see the Sasquatch right here in the middle there. So, good thing this is all on GitHub, so you guys can download this and check out the Squatch.
There we
video. Is it playing? Oh, okay. Hey, all right, there we go. All right, so you can tell from here, this is what we would consider a Class A sighting. Okay, it's unambiguous. This is no dog or bear or hairy dude running around in the forest. It's clearly a Sasquatch. It couldn't possibly be anything else, and you've seen it from a short distance away. So, how did I come across a database of Bigfoot sightings? So there's a number of good data sources out there that are freely available. There's data.gov. Twitter is a good source if you just want to plop something on maps, a lot of tweets or geotag. But POI Factory is a really good one. You can see if you remember those maps that went around, last year, a couple years ago, where they had like all the Walmarts coming over time. You see it like grow like a virus across the United States. You guys see any of those? So that, this is on this side. Well, I was here, found Bigfoot sightings from the BFRO. All right, has anybody watched Finding Bigfoot before on TV? Yeah? Okay, good. So the gang there, these guys run the Bigfoot Researchers Organization, the nation's premier Bigfoot squatching. That's where the term squatching comes from. These guys maintain a database where they have volunteers sort of gather up sightings, and then they walk through them, make sure they're not just somebody crazy. They're actually really good Bigfoot sightings that are verifiable. And they put out a KML link. So has anybody used Google Earth before? Maybe? Okay, so thick climb tool, it's I think Google's kind of abandoning it now. But they have a KML layer where you can download all of their data and check them all out. They have over 3,500 sightings going back something like 70 years. 12 of those have instances of scatological evidence. This isn't just people being crazy, they're actually finding DNA out there, like real Bigfoot evidence. One instance in there I found was a stolen fish. This poor guy, the biggest fish he ever caught, had it in his boat, pulled it up to the bank, turned his back for 1 second, and a Bigfoot stole his fish. Got away. So, like I said before, the Bigfoot sightings are divided into 3 classes. We have Class A, B, and C. Class A sightings, there's no chance of misidentification, okay? So, you've got eyes on the prize, you've seen it, you know it's a Bigfoot, it couldn't possibly be anything else. Class B sightings, so, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Sasquatches, they like to, they communicate by beating on trees out there. It's called wood knocking. So if you hear somebody pounding on trees or something, you've probably seen a Sasquatch, but you can only call it a Class B sighting. Class C are all others, evidence, hearsay, that sort of stuff. So we have the data. So we've got it in KML, but that's not really anything we can do much with other than show it in Google Earth. So I converted it to a tab-separated file. And this step here, it's a bullet up here on the slide. But really, this is where 90% of your data visualization work goes, is in cleaning up your data and putting it in a format that you can show on a map or in some sort of chart or visualization. So all the points have latitude and longitude, but I wanted to get more information like zip code and state, so that way, at this point I wasn't sure what kind of map I was going to make. I didn't want that data in case I wanted to do a Horclef map or a chart or something like that. And FCC has an excellent web API there, and it's unthrottled, so you can hit this as many times as you want until their service goes down. So if you need a geocoder, that's a good one to use. You send it in a latitude and longitude, and it'll give you back a city, state, county, zip code for that. Wow. Yeah, so we can fill in the data that way. So here are all the points I have. Description, timestamp, lat long, a couple other fields there. And it just so happens that D3 has some really handy utilities for dealing with limited files. First code for the night up here. So you see there, d3.tsv. So if you guys use jQuery or something similar to that, you might be used to calling JSON to do your AJAX calls, right? But using the TSV function in D3, I give it the path of the tab-separated file I want to load, and then I deal with it just like an AJAX call. I get back a response and an error object there. And what that does for me is it processes that response, so instead of just getting text back, I get an actual JavaScript array back. And inside of that array, it takes the first row in that tab-separated file and uses that as your attributes on your JavaScript object. So now I have an array of JavaScript objects that have attributes corresponding to the header row. So for here in some of the descriptions, there were commas and stuff, so I did a tab-separated file, but it works for CSV files. If you guys have those laying around you need to process, or there's also something called DSV, which is just delimited separated values, where you pass in the delimiter you want to use. And cool thing, so for the next version of D3 they're working on now, this is all being pulled out into ES 2015 modules. So you can use this now like in any Node.js apps you're writing or whatever on the server. So I've went there a couple times now and started using this. So they're very handy functions. It's all done with there with D3. So making a map. So if you download my code and check it out, usually these are just sort of the major operations in displaying a map. I want to get the outline. So by outlines, I mean like the coordinates of the map I want to display. So in this case, I'm going to show a map of the world. So all of the the outlines of North America, and Australia, and Europe, and all that are in a file called GeoJSON. And so it's just JSON data, and it gives me the latitude and longitude of all those points around the Earth. So that's that is getting the map, and then I'm going to draw the map. And in D3 language, that means we're going to take the GeoJSON data and convert those latitude and longitude coordinates into X and Y coordinates that we can show in an SVG element. And then the same thing with the sightings. I'm going to get that tab-separated file of all the BFRO sightings and then go through them and draw them on the map. quick SVG primer. So anybody used SVG before? Does everybody know what it is? Kind of? Okay. So scalable vector graphics. It's gotten really popular in the last few years, but it's been a spec for a long time. It's got a ton of browser support. There's a lot of talks available right now. Chris Coyer's real big on it. Sarah Sweden has a lot of talks on YouTube and stuff you can look up. And anything that they're doing there with, a lot of them are real big on animations and sort of doing different cool things with CSS and SVG. You can do with D3 too. We're just rendering all of these complex shapes into SVG elements. And especially with some of the newer phones and the newer displays on the MacBooks, the high-density displays, SVG is really important because instead of being pixelated and made up as a raster image, it's all just matte, and then the browser renders it, so everything stays sharp and crisp, no matter what you're viewing it on. So here's a bit of SVG. It's just like HTML, right? It just gets put into it's an XML-based format, so it gets put into the browser, and your browser can render it just like HTML. And the important thing here is this path element that's in there. So this is drawing a square over there on the right, and it's doing so you're just giving drawing commands to the browser of which sort of coordinates on the page to go to draw. Okay. And if that's not enough detail or too much, or it's not enough detail, if you guys got questions, please ask them as we go. So D3.js toolkit. So this is a toolkit you can use to build SVG elements and interactive visualizations with SVG. The metaphor I like to use here is a lot of charting libraries and stuff, they'll give you the IKEA version, right? You'll say new bar chart, and then it's done for you. And it's really easy, you can do it in one line, but you're sort of stuck with whatever decisions the library author has made for you. D3 is more like just a good set of woodworking tools. You have everything you need, but things are a little bit more complicated to get onto the page and get the visualization you're looking for. And you can really see that if you go to d3js.org and look through their examples. So this is a screen cap of their examples page. And you can see, there's no two on there that look even remotely alike, right? They're all, and all the differences between those are, work that's went in by the authors to do something new. So you can do a wide variety of stuff with it, but at the same time, it's pretty low level, and it's not something you can just sort of pick up in an hour and do. You sort of have to invest some time into it. So finally, before we get to the map, just why would we do this, right? So there's a lot of other easier options, right? You can use Mapbox or Google Maps to show these. But when you do that, you get, those are all tile-based functions. So if you've ever seen on your phone things loaded, like the squares loading, it's actually sending you, it's rendering the map on the server and sending you down a PNG file that you see on your map. And so then you're stuck with whatever the authors, you basically have to bake those tiles, right? And make decisions up front about your styling and what projection the map is and all of that. With vectors and D3, they're stylable. So you can style these things with CSS. You can animate them, and you can make them interactive, right? They're not an image. They're actually get DOM elements on SVG elements, so you can make it a lot more interactive. Okay, so that's sort of the primers. You guys all with me so far? Yeah. Okay. All right. So to do a map with D3, so for all that set up, it's really not that complicated. First, you need a projection. So think of the Earth as an orange, right? What a projection is we want to peel the orange and use the orange peel as the map, right? We've got to mush it down to a 2D monitor. And how you do that, the mathematical function to do that is called a projection. So D3 takes in this, you have to create a path function. And a path function takes a projection. And that's just how we're going to convert these latitude and longitude coordinates into SVG X and Y elements that we're going to render on the page. So that's that first bit up there. You set that once, and then you're done. And then my draw outlines functions here. So the select all bit there, this is just D3 syntax for we're taking the data we have in. So these are the GeoJSON for the outlines of the continents, and we're binding that with that data call. And then for every item in there, we want to create a path element in the SVG element, and we're going to draw these things here. And then use that path function to do the conversion. So once we have the map outlines, we've still got to put the Bigfoot data on there. So we're going to just use the SVG circle element for those. And we do the same thing. We get the tab separated file, and that's in a variable there called data. And we bind that to the circle element. So for every item in that data array, we're going to enter in and put a circle element on the map. And the translate bit there is how we convert those latitudes and longitudes into X and Y coordinates. So all that work there, get a map that looks like this. So what do you think? Pretty good? Underwhelming? Maybe? So this is pretty standard. If you've ever seen any web maps, this is what you see. So this is, for map geeks, this is called the Mercator projection. It's really good for things like Google Maps where you're doing directions. It sort of retains directionality. But for things like infographics, and if I'm showing a map of Bigfoot sightings across North America, it's not so great.
Which dot is the fish sighting?
I don't know. I should see where that's at, yeah.
So where is the data regarding like the boundaries and borders and all that stuff coming from? Is it part of the library, or is it fetching stuff from the server?
No, yeah, it's fetching from the server, and you've got to provide those yourselves. So D3, they have some data that's sort of bundled a lot with D3 that you can find on the examples and the tutorials that the USGS has put out. For the most part, everything's on your own. You're doing it yourself and drawing it.
Okay, so when you're setting up D3, you're like pointing into a server that has the kind of general base map type.
Yeah. So you download D3 or use Bower or whatever to get it into your app, and then you're also going to have if you look in my in the code here, I have a file called like world10meter.geoJSON, and so that means this is a GeoJSON file of the world at 10 meter resolution.
Okay.
And there's trade-offs there, right? So it's not just something that you can, and that's sort of the trade-off you make by using D3. Like a lot of libraries, you'll just get whatever you get. But with D3, you can pick, all right, I want to make the trade-off where I have 10, high resolution outlines for a bigger file size, or maybe I don't care so much about the fine-grained resolution and I want a lower file size. So it's up to you to make those decisions.
But everything like D3 is vector-based. You're not getting back any like
No binding.
raster map.
Right. Yep. It's all text
So you're
file.
trading off the tile service for a file of points, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wondering, what is this file look at? What size is it? Like
This file is like 4 megs.
4?
It's big. Yeah. So 10 meters is pretty high resolution. I mean, you can see like inlets and Great Lakes and stuff. And so, but I was doing this for a presentation, not really for real life use. So it's okay. There's different resolution imagery out there you can get to.
And Mike, how much it is interactive actually? How much D3 is interactive? Say like, if I want to do something like in Waze where the user can go and update kind of like traffic, is it possible to do in D3? Using D3?
Sorry, what was?
If the user wants to update something in the map,
Okay,
like, say like I'm just giving an example of a Waze app here. Okay, so the user could go and update if there is an accident or anything like that. Right? Is it possible using D3?
Absolutely, yeah. So D3 is just displaying the data. So if you want to say instead of Bigfoot sightings, I had a database of accidents in Dayton, right? I wanted to provide some sort of real-time app like that. That's perfect for that. Yeah, and I do that in my work a lot, where we've got things happen at this point, and have a database of all those points, and we're showing them on a map.
Right. And is this the interactivity that you were talking about in one of your previous slides when you were talking about differences between kind of like a Google map and then vector-based maps?
Not really. So the interactivity I was talking about there was more like, this is a screenshot of a web page in my slides here, but if we were looking at the actual web page, you could put mouse over events on this. So everything in here gets rendered into the DOM of the browser. So you get an actual HTML element you can click on and attach events to, like click handlers or hover events or anything you want. So, versus like if I had a map tile, right, it would be a PNG file, and that's it. It's done. It's just an image, right?
I'm also guessing the.
Well, yeah, you can do an image map, and and people have gone to great lengths to get around that limitation in the past, but
I'm also guessing the performance is going to be better with vector, right? Say like I'm comparing D3 on Google Maps. You're talking about images in Google Maps, so my performance is going to be better when I use D3.
To a degree, yeah. So there's a trade-off. You trade off. So if I was going to put this on a website, the trade-off is, I load all of the data at once and everything all at once up front before I display it, versus a map tile where you just load those tiles asynchronously and they kind of fill in as you're going. So, okay. So now that we've got this up here, show you all right, so what I had before is pretty much what you get with Leaflet or Google Maps or something. So now we want to show off, what can we do with D3 that I can't do with Google Maps? So the first thing is, since that GeoJSON file of my world is just a GeoJSON file, I can throw out everything that I don't need. So throw out the rest of the world and just have the continental United States and Canada there. So that shrinks my file size down a lot too. The next thing is a projection. So, and what I mean by that is, you'll see Antarctica is not really that big, and you can see Canada and things how, in this projection, things sort of splay out at the bottoms and the tops. And if you pop open Google Maps or Apple Maps or anything on your phone, this is the projection they use. So it's, like I said before, it's great for turn-by-turn directions, but it's really bad for infographics. So now, using D3, I can pick a more, accurate projection, something that fits my data better. I have the one I picked right here, but D3 has hundreds of these built in, and they're in a separate file. You can download this geo-projection thing. Also, it'd be nice to have like grids and then group the sightings by class. Something I kind of glossed over before, but is important now is building out that SVG element now when I render it on the page. So SVG has something built in called a group tag. And you can think of that as layers, basically. So if you were doing this in Illustrator or Photoshop, you could have layers where you draw on. The same thing with SVG. SVG is rendered in the browser, so source order matters. It renders the first element at the bottom, and then the last element would be on top. So, but by using these group tags, I can now set up my layers up front when I create the SVG, and then render the data to those different layers in whatever order I want. Get things out. So now, also, since we're using a different projection and we're not showing the whole world, you have to do some funny stuff here. I know this looks really bad. Anytime you see algebra or something, people get really funny about that and scared. But trust me when I tell you, if you looked at this for a couple minutes, you would start to understand it. And also, this is code I lifted off of D3's website. This is the same. This is basically how you zoom in D3. So we've got a smaller area of the world now we want to look at. And we've got to zoom the map into that, and this is how you do it. So all this is doing is getting a bounding box for the North America, and then zoom the projection in on that. So we're scaling and rotating it around to show it. Radicals, these are just the latitude and longitude lines. You'll see these in a second. But we just sort of say how many I want to show. And then rendering, it's all the same, right? We just grab the grid group, render the radicals there. I get the land group, I'm going to throw my GeoJSON at it, and that's all the same. And we get better looking map.
Where was your projection?
That was, actually I didn't have that in the code that I showed, but it is literally, let's see, so I'm gonna flip back here. All I did was change that first line there. Instead of geo.mercator, I did geo.area. And that's the only change that was there. Okay. So I have to admit, like, in my head when I was giving this presentation, like this is where, like, it's projection, we've got a better map that better suits our data, right? And this is something you cannot do with Google Maps. So there you go. And now the distances between sightings, we're doing Bigfoot data, I know, but if we're doing something that maybe was a little more serious, the distance between your points there might matter a whole lot, especially if you're looking for groupings or something like that. So that's that. All right. So pretty good, but yeah. It looks like it was designed by a defense contractor. I know it's black and gray and contrasty. And then also, what about the interactivity we mentioned earlier, right? You're still not there on that. So put this out on CodePen. Here's my username and the collection. So if you go here, I've put out the one I just showed you, the black one. I've also done a light color scheme version of it, and I've also done a version where it has hover events on the actual sightings. If you want to go to that and find the fish story, you can hover around and find there. So yeah, you guys knock yourselves out, and please let me. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. I'm sure there are better designers in the team. Okay, so all that to say, instead of going down the D3 path and showing you more of that, what I'd like to do now is show you how to break this out of the browser, right? Because there are some definite downsides to doing this, right? So the big thing is, right, you might want to pull your SVG element out. Now it's hard to draw a map in a certain projection. So now we can get that SVG element out, and if we're doing a report or a pamphlet or who knows what, we can put this SVG element now into other design tools like Illustrator or Sketch or whatever you're working on. Also, if you would rather, that's a lot of data to send a mobile device, and it's a lot of processing, right? We're sending all the data down and then doing the processing for building that SVG on the client. So what we can do instead is either, cache the SVG server side with some Node.js tools, or we could also even go a step further and convert those to PNG files, and we can do different resolution PNG files for small, medium, and large devices that way too. And then you get that internet IE8 and down support. So how do we do this? Phantom.js. So you guys used this before? Yeah? So I know we've talked about it at GemCity.js a couple times. But mostly it gets brought up in the context of doing unit testing on JavaScript. But it's a full-fledged browser, so we can use that our command line tools now to do different things. So from down here, this is 10 lines of JavaScript. I render that map I just showed you, open it up. And once it's done rendering, I get I evaluate the script there in the middle. And all that's doing there is pulling out the SVG element by its ID. I give it an ID of map. But if you want to do something more complex there, like grab all the SVG elements or whatever, then you can do that too. If I just pull that out and then serialize it to a string and then write the file out to the file system there. So once I've done that, I can now pull it into Illustrator and do all sorts of stuff with it. So this is where that bit before comes important, where I said those group tags. So now once you pull in, if you do your group tags and you give them an ID, those get imported into Illustrator. Now this is more of a logical way of looking at it, right? So it kind of gets swapped around, but now we have the grid on the bottom, then the layer, then the Class C, B, and A sightings on up. And we can do anything like there. So if you have any Sketch or Illustrator plugins, we can tweak the colors, frame it, get it ready for print, add logos, whatever. And I ended up with something like this, right? Cool. So now we can pull this into a publication, our scientific research on Squatchin in Ohio, and be good to go. So, additional resources. So here's some links. So, both the things I've shown you guys tonight, like just making maps with D3, take that a whole lot further than what I've done here, and then also, caching that, pulling it out of the browser and putting it in a format that might be better for your users. There's some tools here for doing SVG to PNG. There's kind of a gotcha though, so if you are like trying to do like a Node app or something where you want to cache these for mobile users or something, you'll have to be careful to get your CSS styles. Any CSS you apply to it, you got to sort of pull those out of the style sheet and make sure you put them in line on the SVG to render right. But there's some other talks there. So I have sort of another mapping talk I give a lot, designing maps with these 3JS down there. So there's a link to that. We have, and that one's a little more slower paced and methodical. So if you want to check that one out, I recommend it. And a couple books I always get asked for, what's a good book to learn in 3JS. So there's a couple here, and also some data resources. So one of the things I glossed over was, I had that big GeoJSON of the world, and then I pulled out just the United States and Canada. So QGIS was what I used to do that. There you go. And all these are on the GitHub page there. So, any questions? Thank you very much. Sure.
So D3, you can do more than just mapping, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, mapping is just a small subset of what you can do with D3.
Yeah.
How quickly would you be able to pull up those code pens that you showed last one?
Yeah.
The ones with the tracing of the Ohio was pretty visual.
Yeah, I can show you those. Let me, oops, I don't want to do that. All right, so here, go to my code pen page. I'll show you here, like, here's the Squatchin ones.
You gotta switch.
Go through these real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so if you go here are the 3 pens I did. So you see how so styling SVG elements is a little bit different than just styling HTML. So you can see how those go there. Also, here's the one I did, has a little bit of interactivity. So if I do this while we're on the TV, I get over one of those guys, you see the descriptions. So that's it's hard for you guys to see, but that's sort of, and then you can look through, the nice thing about CodePen is all the code to do this is right here in these 3 files. So you guys can check this out, fork it, remix it, or just copy and paste it out of here into your own code. No, I'm just kidding, don't do that. And so what Alan was talking about at the CodePen meetup, I showed them, these are some maps from my my other talk. So I have a whole bunch of different styles. So mapping is obviously a very, and usually how these talks, right? Data visualization in general is a very broad topic and a very deep topic. And mapping, just the subset of mapping in that is also a very broad and deep topic in there. And there's a whole bunch of different types of maps. These are all thematic maps, and these are examples of different kinds of maps. So this one here, you see this drawing, and this was the point I was making with this is, all the CSS tricks you get that you've been hearing some of the other web developers talk about lately, you get with for free just by using D3, right? So you get things from the so here's using a weird projection. Here's using OpenStreetMap data. Let's see.
There's the skyline chili one.
Yeah, you guys want to see? So yeah, this is my Coney map. What I'm showing here is this is actually a satellite projection. So if you look in my code in here, let's see if I can make this bigger. There's a projection there where you actually have to set the distance from the Earth and the rotation of it and the tilt, right? And so you're basically simulating what a satellite would look like, and then you can project your image. And remember, so now this is all vector, right? So now this is what, if you were that distance from the Earth, at these coordinates, this is what it would, how you would see all the skyline chilies in Ohio. I think this is home base there. So, yeah. Cool. And yeah, this is all on CodePen, so you guys go for these and show me what you can build. Yeah, sure.
I see the question through Slack with a link from the D3.js page, so I was wondering if you can do like a short walk through that. The link was actually creating, basically the link create D3 visualizations. So if you have Slack open, you can kind of
So we're starting up now. This was on the web developers?
yes, Slack now. Slack.
Sorry. When I said I usually have it open, I meant except when I'm doing presentations. Okay, so short demo using. So this isn't something I've seen before. I'm going to pull it over here so you can see it. You guys don't see me frowning at my laptop. So yeah, so maybe you can tell me what the site is or what you want to see from us. Do a short demo using this. Yeah, I'm not really sure what this site is or what it does, but I can check it out offline and maybe get back to you on Slack. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
It was under GitHub, and it just had, I guess it was a link from the D3 webpage,
Okay.
and under examples. And then I scrolled all the way down, and there was create D3 visualizations, and that page popped up. It looks
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, it looks like it has a lot of options there for doing different types of charts.
Kind of a UI or multi-tree maybe a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, we kind of hit on before. So D3 is extremely broad. Let me show you. I'm sorry, what was that? Wow.
There's a data drop down, so maybe it's not showing you things. There's you haven't selected what data. I don't.
I can't really see.
Oh no, that's a color code.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a data tab.
Okay, so yeah.
It's like
And I would say, just looking at this, so I've seen tools like this before, okay, so not to get too far up on a soapbox, but you've got tools like this are always hard, right? This is basically Excel, right? So if you pop open Excel and you have a bunch of stuff in your spreadsheet, you get all these options for how to show that data, right? And just because you can show that data and all these different options doesn't mean you should. You really need to look at your data and think about it and think about what point you're trying to get across and build a story around that and then show
Yeah, so some good rationale behind that is anything by Edward Tufte
Yeah, right, yeah. Tufte's a great, yeah, any of his books are great, you know, as far as like deep dives into data visualization and the how-to behind it. And and it's tough though, right? Because you get this data and you see all these cool things, you're like, wow, I've got to try that. And you start like, you know, handling the data in different ways that probably isn't optimal to do. So, and the one that I was going to show, there before we forgot that, is this Blocks Explorer. So D3 is very big on examples, so you won't see a whole lot of how to build a map in D3.js. What you find are these blocks, and blocks are basically, it sits on top of GitHub GIFs, and they take a couple files and do an example, right? But the cool thing about this site is if I want to say, like I want to know all of the D3.geo stuff, and I search in here, these are all the GIFs on GitHub that use the geo package. So these are all the maps you can do. But there are lots of other parts of D3. So
Dashboard.
I'm sorry, what was that?
D3 dashboards.
Dashboard. Well, so this is actually pulling out the API, the D3 API. So they're not really, there's no like dashboard function. You want to see all of the layout, probably the D3 layout. So basically, if you try to do something with D3 and you want to learn more about it, this is an excellent way to sort of, all right, anything using D3.layout, or here are all the blocks, or D3.geo, here are all the blocks, and everything you can do with that. Yeah. Any other questions?
You know, on D3's site, they have a huge list of examples still.
Yeah, the D3, let me just pull it up, since I'm getting kind of used to this now.
Typing over your shoulder.
Yeah. Click on the examples up here. Yeah, well, see, and this is what I was talking about before. I mean, there are thousands of examples on here, and none of them look alike, right? Because all D3 is doing is sort of giving you a easy wrapper on top of SVG to pull your data and bind it to the DOM. So, yeah, there's all sorts of crazy cool stuff you can do here.
Have you looked at Vega?
What's that?
Have you looked at Vega?
Vega, no, I haven't used that one.
It's a visualization framework that writes on top of D3, but it also splits. It's an abstraction layer just implementing the graphs in JSON.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah.
It's from the same, well, it's from the same people, Jeffrey Hare and those guys.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the other thing. There are a lot of libraries built on top of D3, so I kind of geek out about this stuff. I really like it, and I always seem to get in a situation where like the customer will want that one thing that's not done by the library, right? So you have to go down and dig into D3. But there's a lot of things. C3 is a charting library on top of D3 that I've used before that makes the charts really easy to use. Sort of the same thing, right? You know, you get an API on top of D3, and then you're sort of stuck with it the same way. I was assuming it's the same way with Data.
It's designed as an abstraction layer, so you can sit on top of. It wanted to separate from the DOM, so you could use
cool.
other rendering.
Yeah, that's a big deal. In the slides there at the end, if you pull those down, and I'll make sure I put this in the README in the GitHub too, so you don't have to open that. But the next version of D3, they're really modularizing things, and I know one of its goals is to get it so it's sort of you can plug different renderers into it right now. Because right now, SVGs can be kind of slow and cumbersome, especially when you get a lot of data points on there. You know, it means you're rendering a lot of DOM nodes into browsers, and it can get overwhelming really quick. So one of their goals is to be able to plug in renderers so you can have a WebGL renderer or a Canvas renderer and share your data that way.
Cool, so you mentioned E. Who's behind D3 Is it an organization? Is it an open source community? It sounds like. What
it's
does that
open
look
source.
like?
The main guy is Mike Bostock, and he just quit. He was in the New York Times Data Visualization Lab. So you've seen, like anytime you see a data visualization in the news, it's usually those guys. They're like really good at it. So he built this. And then there's a couple different guys doing different parts. I think Jason Davies, I might have his first name wrong, but he does a lot of the geo stuff, and a lot of the different projections that are really good. There's a whole group of guys that work on it, but Mike Bostock's really the main guy over top of all of this.
Okay, so most of the development is done by a small group of developers, but it is open source.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's all on GitHub.
Okay.
For business application with like business intelligence and obviously the input graphics and the data visualization, I think this is the coolest intersection between visual and data. I think it's just, that's where it comes together. SVG ends with the D3 of taking that and presenting it in a useful format.
Yeah, I agree.
You talk a lot about mapping, but I see this a lot in a business intelligence type of application.
Yeah,
Where you're going to have a board of directors that wants to see the annual forecast or the annual either projections or last year's results. And you can give them an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of data points, which is going to be really boring, or you can use something which is really cool like this and present it in a real-time updatable format.
Yeah.
And historically, it would be like, well, let me go back to my desk and recomputate that chart for you, and I'll print it off and hand it to you. Or in the boardroom, you can sit there, just change a data point, and boom,
Yeah.
it changes on the fly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really good, and it's especially for me, I've been doing web stuff forever, right? And so, like, to be able to sort of do something cool and visual with it, I think it's really cool. And like I said before, this isn't like this is a whole discipline in and of itself. Data visualization. There's a lot of room there to learn and figure things out and do new stuff. Cool. All right. Thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you.